Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope you're all doing great, as I always say. And in this video, we're going to take a look at some of the lesser known cryptids, or encounters with what could be cryptids. So, if that sounds like your cup of tea, definitely pull up a stump, like and subscribe, and let's jump into it. Thank you for watching. So I grew up with my grandparents on a good few acres in Gaston, South Carolina. It's a small backwater town. I live on the road doing telecom, but I come here to lay my head when I'm in town. My grandfather cleared this house from the swamp 20 years ago, and my grandma and him have been slowly building this place into their own little area ever since then. This place is still pretty scary though at times. I grew up with demonic things and spooky stuff, so as long as the spirits announce themselves, I'm generally tolerant of them. So here's what happened as of 1 a.m. during this experience. The ball game was over, and I was pissed at the scumhawks for screwing up, so I go outside to have a smoke. Now, the house has two large concrete decks built on either side. It sits on a sharp downhill towards the pond. I'm standing overlooking the pond and the hill, smoking and being pissed about the game. Then I notice something waddling up the hill. Now I'm used to critters and such, but this was weird. From pond to house is maybe a quarter mile. Imagine, it's hard to put into words. This thing looked like a cartoon or something. 3 black balls stacked upwards, a straight line, 4 little black nub feet. It scuttled on, and a goofy ass smiling face. It had a happy bulldog kind of look to it. It was so cute. I wasn't really scared as it scuttled up the hill, but I really knew that it wasn't an animal or anything. I knew that it was something that I should be afraid of. I called for my grandfather after a few minutes. He hops out of bed and runs outside. Well, this thing scuttles up the hill. He sees it. He runs back inside and returns with a 12 gauge. As he shoulders up, this thing smacks into the gate and looks at the fence quizzically, like it's confused that there's something in its way. I watch on as my grandfather blasts it, and it kind of stumbles. I know he hit it with the double barrel, but it didn't seem to bleed. Instead, it just kind of looked scared, turned around and hauled ass down the hill. My grandfather told me to go to bed and told my grandma that it was a raccoon. He went to sleep soon after. This is a weird place. When I asked him what it was the next day, he looked at me and said, God made a lot of creatures. He didn't make that one, and I recommend that you never find out who did. That set of words still gives me chills even now. So I live in Chicago, and I was walking around the woods there, and there was a huge rainstorm recently, so the creek that run through the forest was now quite a bit bigger, almost like a river. And as I'm walking, I'm just enjoying myself, enjoying my walk and the nature and all that, and suddenly I hear, "Please help. Oh God, it's coming. Please help me." This continues on for a few minutes, but it starts to sound like multiple people crying for help. It's all coming from this really big thicket that's to my left. I take a step closer to it, and this giant black canine-looking thing jumps out from the shrubs. It's making those cries for help. It sounds like a massive crowd of people just screaming. I yell, "Oh shit," and then I leg it. This canine thing is easily catching up on me, so I decide in a last-ditch effort that I have to jump in the river. Fortunately for me, this thing can't swim as well as it can run, so I'm able to get ahead of it. I swim further, and then I get out and book it back to my car. And then, at the tree line, as I'm about to leave, I hear shit in my voice. I see the canine walk back into the forest. I realize that it was repeating what was many people's last words, probably in an attempt to lure someone else to it. I get really disturbed by this. I speed home, and I'm not as much of a nature guy anymore. So this one time, I was out near Ely, Nevada. My friends and I were going out into the desert to the same spot once a month. And what we do is we go out there and we shoot targets, the sand, the rocks, just, act like guys, I guess. So, I won't say what year this exactly was, but it was several years removed from 2012. We were driving there. We take 3 trucks, and there was a total of 9 of us, and we use walkie-talkies, and we act like we're a big fancy convoy and stuff. So after some driving, we get to our spot, and we park side by side, and we start our shooting. And then, we hear this laughing, like creepy little girl laughing. We go to check it out, and when we walk behind our trucks, this giant hole that wasn't there before, like we drove over the area, it just wasn't there before. It was 15 by 8, so it was just a giant hole there, and there were stairs going down to some big steel door that's opened, and we all think, what the hell is all this? So we go down, but it's pitch black inside, so we turn the truck around and we blast the floodlights. It helped a little bit. We get lights off of our trucks, and one of them is like 20 million candle power or something. The rest were 5 million. We go down the stairs, armed with a shit ton of guns and the power of our lights. It's just a long hallway with a door at the end. We have 2 guys stay topside as lookouts with walkie-talkies on. Everyone else goes down into the hole. We're walking slowly with guns aimed towards the partly cracked door. The child laughing is growing stronger, but halfway down the hall, the laughing is not laughing, it's yelling. I get goosebumps. We get to the door. The laughing stops. For just a moment, it's dead quiet. We look at each other, and we kick open the door. It's screaming. It was screaming the whole time. We aimed our lights, and we see something. I don't know what it was. It looked almost like a mutant, chained to a wall, screaming. It was trying to charge at us, but the chains were holding it back. We just run away. We fire some stray shots toward the beast. The screaming is getting louder as we get back toward the entrance. After we all exit, the door just shuts by itself. We look for our 2 friends topside. They were both in the beds of different trucks, seemingly sleeping. We drive off as fast as we can. We're topping 100 in my F-250. We wake up our friends and ask them what the hell they were doing. They said they saw a thing that looked like a coyote, but it wasn't. They fired at it, and then they started to feel really weird, and then that's all they remember. We never heard gunshots when we were down there. The next day, we go back. There's no hole, no stairs, nothing. We check the GPS to make sure that it's indeed the same spot. Yeah, it's the same spot. We get our metal detectors out that we brought with us this time. There's no trace of anything. When that thing screamed, it was the most scared I've ever been before or since then. And after this, another person chimes in. My friend and I were exploring some of her aunt's tons of acres in California, right on the Nevada border. We were in my truck. We ended up driving a little cliff face. It wasn't too tall, but not really that small either. Maybe like 2 to 3 stories tall. Anyway, about halfway up there was what looked like a cabinet with double doors, but a big one. It was big enough that a person could fit through without ducking if both doors were opened. Of course, this is really weird, considering there is a good 5 miles in any direction before there's any sign of civilization. Since we're bored, we decide that we want to look inside of it. I park my truck right up against the wall, and we hop up on the roof rack, and we decide to pry it open. But it's actually pretty secure. It felt like there was a few locking lugs across the sides of the bottom. I managed to get it pried open a little, but I couldn't see too much. So I had my friend hold the crowbar while I looked inside with a flashlight. I could just barely see. There was a little cave with some carved steps going down a ways. I couldn't see the end, but I saw something reflective a ways down. I traded spots with my friend, and she looked inside. A few seconds later, she jumped back, and something smashed into the door. She drew her gun. I did as well. She said that the reflective thing that I saw was eyes, and something humanoid and naked ran at the door. I could hear some metallic noises, but I didn't know what they were. But now I'm thinking they might have been a chain or something. I'm not sure though. We went back a little while later, and there was some kind of small landslide or something. The cliff face is still there, but it was much less steep, and we couldn't find that weird cabinet door looking thing again. We haven't gone back with metal detectors yet, but that's a good idea. So, what do you think they saw? What do you think it was? One theory is here below. It says you both saw a human testing center. During World War II, Russia, America, and Germany were pretty big into human experimentation. They aren't supposed to be operational anymore, but somehow some still are. I would suggest you never go back or try looking for them, as you may be kept prisoner, or worse. Human experimentation during these times went into 3 fields: nuclear radiation, human strength in improving the traits we have, the supernatural. Russia mainly did radiation tests. America did strength tests, trying to improve human testing, the perfect soldier. Germany did supernatural tests. Both of you walked into a strength and improvement of humanity testing area, which is noted by the chains. The radiation centers had lead-lined walls and big windows with chains bolted down in the middle of the room. The supernatural testing mainly took place below cities in medium-sized facilities. So, do you agree with that person? Do you think it's something else? Let me know. So I'd like to talk about my personal encounter with the Ozark Howler. I'm not much of a storyteller, so don't expect to get immersed. And this isn't one of those fake stories. This is my account of a failed hunting trip with my uncle. So it was December of 2014. I'm 18 at the time, 275 pounds, and I'm an aspiring powerlifter, heavy looking, but not fat. My uncle had a kid a year ago, so he hasn't been working out in that time. He's still strong AF, but he's just got a gut from all that downtime. This guy is my hero. He knows things about the woods that the gods must have taught him. Me and my uncle are staying with family in a mountain home in Arkansas. I've never been hunting out here, so I'm pretty excited. It's supposed to be elk out here. We don't exactly have an elk tag, but the game wardens never come out this far, so, screw them. We get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to drive out as far as we can, and then we walk about 15 miles into the mountains. We're so deep that the mountains block all cell signals. I'm equipped with my SKS. My uncle has his Mosin. My uncle helps me get situated in my deer stand because he's already killed a deer this season and he wants me to get one. I end up so well situated that you'd never know I was even there unless I shone my phone's light at you. So we're sitting in freezing temperatures all day and we see nothing, jack shit. My uncle told me to wait on him to come get me from my blind. It starts to get dark and I think, okay, uncle, you can hurry up now. He finally gets there. And I am already noped about the darkness and stuff. I have a round in the chamber, finger on the trigger because I guess I have no trigger control. He looks noped out as well. He says something was following him there from his climbing stand. As soon as he gets there, this weird smell fills the air. It's like rotting meat, but with fresh cut pomegranate. Specifically, we have like a 3-hour walk ahead of us. We start walking and we're smelling that weird smell the entire time. I'll never get the smell of pomegranate out of my head. We're starting to get used to it, which was my first mistake. About an hour in, we hear this loud howl that makes us immediately train our guns in that direction. Think the sound of a small gorilla if it was shot 3 times in the gut. That's kind of the sound. And by this point, we have been walking a while, so our eyes are pretty much used to the darkness. But we can't see anything, but we're 1000% ready to shoot something. We say screw it and just start jogging. We've been smelling this pomegranate for the last half hour, and about 30 minutes go by. We hear the noise again, and I think, oh shit, what the hell is out there? At that point I think, screw conserving my flashlight's batteries, I want to see what this thing is. I get out my pocket LED flashlight, I turn it on, and grab the front of my SKS with the same hand, and point my gun along the flashlight at the area the noise came from. I don't really like describing this thing. I don't even like remembering it. I'm pretty noped just sitting here on my phone thinking about it. Just remembering it gives me chills. The image of the howler is burned into my memory and I'll never forget it. It was less than 15 yards away. It was a grizzly bear-sized cat standing on all fours, about 5 feet tall at the shoulders, with horns like a mountain ram or something like that. It had shaggy dark hair, these green eyes that are burned into my memory especially. It made this noise again and jumped at me and my uncle. We were so noped after it howled at us that as soon as it even twitched at us, I mag dumped into it. My uncle was racking the slide and firing as fast as he could. I don't know if we killed it because we didn't stick around. If we didn't kill it, then it shouldn't exist because we shot it a lot. Me and my uncle sprint all the way back to his truck and book it out of those woods. I still have 6 deer tags to fill, and I don't know if I'll ever hunt again. My uncle sold his truck because of the associated memories. He now drives a Chevrolet Sonic. Ew. If I can't get psychiatric help, I don't know if I'm gonna make it through the year. So when I was a teenager, somewhere around 13 to 14, I accidentally got sent to a correctional summer camp by mistake because my friend's mom that signed us up was English as a second language and didn't understand some of the paperwork. So while I'm there, I get assigned to Cherokee Group. Cherokee Camp is on the outermost ridge of the entire property. The cabins are 15 by 15, with an 8-foot wall and a 3-foot paneless window and a roof. There's bunk beds. The top bed lines up perfectly with an empty window. I get assigned a bunk bed. The first day, the kids are saying stuff like, "Don't get snatched by the Ridge Runner," whatever that was. So about a week into camp, it's a mild rainy night. The sounds are nice. It's like that rain on a tin roof kind of sound. And then suddenly, there's a death scream howl about 20 meters from my bed down by the creek. The second scream is from a similar direction. Then it's like they both begin to approach my cabin, and they must have been fighting because it sounded like a battle to the death had started. The screams and howling are so terrible. There are other kids that are crying. It's literally right below my window. I'm so terrified that I hide in my sleeping bag. The fight ends, and I hear heavy breathing, groaning under my window. I hear scratching on the side of the cabin, and I feel weight on my legs. It's impossibly heavy. I couldn't even move if I wasn't frozen with fear. And then all of a sudden, the head counselor's truck tears into our camp. The super flood spotlights turn my cabin into a Dutch brothel. The thing is sitting on my bed, bolts into the woods, continuing the howling. The truck pursues. Whatever it was, ripped my bag all to shit, and scratched my shin in its escape. The next day, none of the counselors will talk about what happened, but me and the kids found a freshly hollowed out raccoon not too far from my cabin. And this is my little note here. I think the kind of cabin that this is they're like, I don't know the real name for them, but I've seen them before. It's like you have the basic structure of a cabin, but there's a back wall and a side wall to protect from the wind and stuff, but the other two are left open. I think that's what this is. I am not 100% sure, so just my thoughts. So back when I was a kid, and by kid I mean teenager, my parents are wilderness-fearing folk, so I haven't been camping too much. I was best friends with this girl who lived in a really wooded area with creepy rusted tools from the 30s all scattered around the woods. So I go to my friend's house almost every weekend, and we find this dead doe on the side of the road, which is normal for the country. And I'm also kind of a scaredy cat because I was raised off of horror and sci-fi movies from a young age. So whenever it gets late at my friend's house, I get this feeling of being watched, and not just like a general feeling thinking that someone might be out there. I mean like the pit in your stomach kind of feeling. So it's pitch dark outside, and we're looking for frogs or something in the pond, and I still feel like we're being watched. I start to get a little scared. As I'm looking around, 25 yards into the forest, I catch eyes, and I think, oh, that better be just some animal. And then those eyes rise to about 6 feet in height. My teenage mind can't comprehend this. I just say, let's go inside. I call my dad to pick me up, and as we're leaving the friend's house, this dead deer is gone. My dad says the coyotes probably got it. We drive for a few more yards until we drive past a tree with the same dead doe hanging on a branch, ripped to hell. I don't think it was coyotes. I think it was whatever that thing was. I've never felt safe in the woods ever since. So I had this friend who said that he would kill us if he ever ran into us again. He said he had killed some kind of creature, that there were 2 other creatures waiting to ambush him. I thought it was a complete joke. After he laughed, he said he didn't need to explain himself. And now this is no slight against anybody in our group of friends, but I'm the smartest one in our group, and I'm able to have a general understanding of most things. He was saying some really silly stuff. He's the kind of guy who spent the last decade of his life trying to uncover the worst things out in the darkness. He just drops his decade-long partners in crime, us, saying it's the only way he can be happy, that he doesn't want to be caught again. He doesn't even acknowledge that we own a business together, nor how happy we were when we got in the local paper. The guy spent 10 years of his life in a place of desperation, yet I could feel I knew exactly what he was doing. That didn't make him leaving suddenly any less depressing, though. I wish I could have told him how sad and horrible it felt that he was leaving. I wish I was able to understand where he was coming from. Right before he left, he kind of started to go crazy. We'd be over at his house, and all of a sudden he would start shooting guns out into the darkness. At one time he ended up shooting his girlfriend's cat. He was yelling about the creature that he killed, some kind of big monkey that had like crocodile eyes or something. I don't exactly remember what it was, but it was really jarring. We would be watching TV, and suddenly the TV would turn off all on its own, and he would scream out into nothing. I shouldn't be watching this much TV anyways. He would go on tirades about how the world has turned into a shitstorm, and that he was trying to put out the fires, and a bunch of other crazy shit like that. He tries to level with me at some point. He says, "These anomalous phenomena are the most horrifying things humanity has ever seen." I couldn't take him seriously, though. He would go on about how everything seems to be going on in a slightly twisted direction, but not in any way you can see. I would try to change the conversation topics to get his mind off of whatever it was that was bothering him. I considered getting him psychiatric help. I'd tell him he was being led to believe something like people on the internet do, that he would be the weirdo who came along and did the thing they told him to do and wind up dead because of it. He was in a state of mind where he was totally oblivious to outside influence. He tried posting online to get donations for equipment and stuff. People criticized him for making up things for around these weird characters he had drawn. His drawings were disturbing. I always asked him if I could see them, and he would show them to me, but he never let me hold them. He would say, "All this stuff going on is being caused by evil forces," and all he was achieving was giving people nightmares. He said that he was going to write some kind of manifesto, but I managed to talk him out of it. He already started it, but he never finished it. It contained who he was and what he was doing, and after reading this, I started to understand. He talked about having a younger brother, who they used to explore the woods together a lot, but then his younger brother was found dead, mauled to death by something. The coroner said a bear, but he thought very differently. I never knew he even had a brother. He never told me. One time before he left, I talked to his mother, who was visiting from out of town. We were friends just out of high school, so I never met either of his parents. She told me about the son they lost. I told her how I thought that his mental health was deteriorating. And then his mother said he never thought it was a bear. After his brother died, he spent almost all of his time in the woods. Now, anytime I knew him, I always thought he was just some kind of survival enthusiast. I didn't know he was out in the woods for any particular reason, but he was looking for something, and I think he found it. I thought back to his drawings. They were of a killing in the forest by some kind of grotesque monster. This was surrounded by a bunch of people who were hugging the trees. I don't know if these were some kind of cultists or if this was supposed to symbolize something. People were mad at him because he blamed them for the death of his brother. His talk about it stopped right before we became friends. I realized that he likely has some kind of PTSD related to his brother's death. I confront him about it. He says that I have become too involved and that it was time for him to leave. He said he was leaving to protect his friends. And then he disappeared for 3 weeks. I think he went to try and find whatever it was that killed his brother. He was eventually found near the side of the road, loaded with ammunition, holding a rifle, and bled out. He, too, had apparently been mauled by a bear. After that, I swear, occasionally when I'm home alone, and I look out into the woods, I see branches move, and it just sends a chill down my spine. So, what'd you think of those stories? Let me know which one was your favorite one down in the comments. What do you think some of them were? Again, let me know. Do you have a story of your own? I have an email in the description below that you can send them to. I also have links to a Patreon and a PayPal if that's something that interests you. And with that, I think I will see you in the next one. I'm going to put some videos up here so you can watch another video if you want, because there's all kinds of them at this point, you know. But anyways, I think the next video on Sunday is going to be about Canada, so definitely tune in for that. Anyways, I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for pulling up a stump. Thank you for watching.